Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crash Zoom. I'm Sammie Purcell, Associate Editor with Rough Draft Atlanta, and I'm here, as always, with Aaron Strand, an indie filmmaker here in Atlanta. How you doing today, Aaron?
I'm doing great, Sammie. Great to be here.
Awesome. Well, if you've never joined us for Crash Zoom before, you're in for a bit of a treat today. So what we usually do here on this podcast is discuss kind of big industry news items, big film industry news items, and try to boil down why they matter to the indie filmmaker. But we're not doing that today. We have an interview this time around that we're very excited about. But before we get into that, if you listen today and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube at Crash Zoom Podcast, and be sure to rate and review as well. That really helps us out. But without further ado, let's get into it.
Yes, we are so excited to welcome our guest today. Arfat Sheikh is a filmmaker originally from Kashmir and now based in DC. After receiving his master's in film from Georgia State University, he wrote and directed his debut feature film, Saffron Kingdom, which follows a Kashmiri American family as they navigate the trauma and displacement of immigration and the pain of losing a father to the Indian occupation of Kashmir. We are so excited. Arfat, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Aaron, and thank you so much for having me, both Aaron and Sammie. I'm excited too. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, we're excited to get into it. Let's start off. So this movie, Saffron Kingdom, it's an incredibly personal story. It's very personal for you. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your journey. Start with your journey as a filmmaker. When did you decide you wanted to be a filmmaker? How did you get here?
Well, I started off as a radio jockey very early in my life. I was like 16-year old, and I was part of Radio Kashmir, which is now All India Radio. So I started off, playing Western music. I had no clue what I was playing, but yeah, of course, I had access to a library which had so many artists on it. Because I didn't grow up with Western music, but that's how I kind of like inclined towards media. It started with like being an RJ, then getting into narrating a few documentaries when I was still a student, 16, 17-year old. But it was the opportunity because you could speak English. So, of course, hey, you could just narrate a documentary too. So that's how it started early on. But then, it wasn't until I went to England to study. So when I came back from England, I started working for a few not-for-profit organizations, and it entailed that I was supposed to do some project documentaries also. Although I didn't have any professional training, but then I was like, okay, I'll just take up the job. That's when I got in touch with a lot of these people who had so many stories to tell, and I was like, wow, there's so much happening in Kashmir that I didn't actually know about. And this needs a medium. It needs some sort of, you need to give them a kind of what's that called? They needed some sort of medium for them to tell those stories. So that's when I thought like, okay, that's a powerful tool of storytelling, and I should probably become a filmmaker, because that's when I also felt that that's probably my true calling, because I was into events management. I was a banker also back in England. I did all sorts of jobs before I ended up doing what I was doing with these NGOs, telling people stories. And that's when I decided consciously that, okay, I got to become a filmmaker. Although, like I said, then, my experiences with media started very early. When I was only 16, 17, doing radio jockeying to narrating documentaries. But it wasn't a conscious decision until I kind of came back to Kashmir after studying in England. And when I started making these project documentaries for them, that I realized, okay, this is probably what I want to do. And it just, it wasn't very smooth because, there's a lot of stuff happening in Kashmir at that time. You couldn't really tell a lot of stories because there's a lot of censorship. But that's when I decided, I probably need to get go somewhere where I could actually freely make these films. And that's when America happened. So America, I came here to do another master's. I already had a master's from England. Then I did master's in filmmaking from Georgia State, and that was just sort of my way of coming to America, and then of course getting to know like how the film industry works here and how I could tell my stories, because that was also crucial at that point, because there was a lot of erasure of our history happening. A lot of the stuff that happened in Kashmir was being removed from internet and from our history books. So I thought, okay, I mean, we don't have a lot of filmmakers, we don't have a film industry as such. So that's when I decided that I'll take it upon myself and become like somebody who could actually tell our stories, because there aren't any, and probably this might inspire many more to come and tell.
Yeah, I'm curious, speaking of that sort of, I guess, the censorship in Kashmir about what's going on. And, you can get as deep or as not deep as you want into your own personal story. But I'm curious if when you decided to make this film, if your family kind of had any reservations, I guess, about putting this story kind of out into the world, similar to the family in the movie, if that makes sense.
Of course,
Mhm.
my family did, because I also, my dad was a very popular musician in
Mhm.
Kashmir, and then he died in mysterious circumstances. He was literally like killed on a journey to Delhi, New Delhi.
Mhm.
And then I remember, like, one of the reasons why I also became a filmmaker, because is also personal, is because we didn't get any agency at that time, because the media started reporting his death in so many different ways. As in, you had one newspaper saying that, okay, he must have fallen off the train. Somebody said, oh, okay, he must have been drunk. Then another one wrote, like, it was a lot of assumptions happening, where we didn't even get an opportunity, or it wasn't we weren't respected to grieve enough. We didn't get that opportunity, because he was again very, very, very popular within Kashmir. And then what happened with him shocked the whole nation. But that's when I also decided, like, okay, I need to take that agency back, and I need to tell our stories, because there isn't like anybody who's doing that. And my family did, of course, have reservations, especially my mom, because of course we have a history. And but then I was like, okay, if I don't do it, then who's going to do it? So somebody has to really start. I mean, in the film also, I mean, you have a couple of scenes wherein the main character Mustard says that, if you do not begin to tell, I mean, don't expect change if you don't become
Mhm.
part of that change. So, she kind of like is the one who insists on telling the story and going back, regardless of, what the backlash would be. So, yeah, of course, my family is worried, but I think I signed up for it. I keep saying that I signed up for it. I mean, I already have received a lot of backlash on my social media, wherein, I've now kind of tightened the security on my Instagram, on my Facebook, because people don't want me to tell this story. So yeah, if that answers the question, I don't know. I might have gone a little bit.
There's so many things there that I want to follow up on, but I just as a sort of a broad overview, for any American listener who's unfamiliar with kind of what's happening in Kashmir and some of this history that we're referencing, can you briefly sort of explain a little bit of the history of Kashmir and so in addition to your own personal story and your family's story with the death of your father, were some of the other these stories you were hearing while doing the work in Kashmir that inspired this need to give the Kashmiri people a platform, a voice. So what's happening in Kashmir, and then what were some of the individual stories that you were consistently hearing?
Well, Kashmir was a princely state I mean, even before and while India was a British colony. And then when British left, I'm just going to give you a very brief
Yeah.
synopsis of the whole story, because it's like it's an endless saga,
Sure.
and the
Yeah.
world's longest running conflict, and some call it's even older than Palestine. But what happened was it was a princely state. India was supposed to, like, when the British left, they were given a choice, all the princely states, that you could either go with India or Pakistan, because of course, India was also bifurcated into
Yeah.
two countries, India and Pakistan. And it was told, like, okay, now all these princely states can choose for themselves, like, what they want to do, because it was a monarchy at that time. But there was already an uprising happening during that time against the Hindu king, because Kashmir is predominantly Muslim. But what that king did, because he knew that nobody is gonna of course vote for him, so he started planning to annex it with India. And when he did all of that, it's like then Pakistan started like a war with them. They took some of the Kashmir because they thought like, okay, as per the proximity with where Kashmir lies and with the religion, because of course the partition of India was predominantly done on the basis of religion. Like Muslims go to Pakistan and Hindus go to India, although India did claim that it's a secular nation, which of course right now it is not with what's happening. um, but so that's what became the bone of contention. So Kashmir remained because it was also geopolitically so important as a place, that both of these nations claim it in its entirety. And then there's also a section of people who want the independence of its nation because they were never given the opportunity to choose. And that's when the case was taken to the United Nations, and they gave a resolution, which is Resolution 47, wherein they said, okay, you have to give the people are the main stakeholders, and you have to give them the opportunity to vote who they want to go with. But that vote was never conducted.
Mhm.
So what happened now is, of course, India put a special article in their constitution, 370 and 35A, which meant that, okay, I mean, I mean, in a way, it meant that it's a contested region, but hey, there are certain things that we are going to be controlling, including security, communication, and one more thing which I can't remember right now. But slowly and gradually they started annexing Kashmir, calling it an integral part of India, until 2019, when they even actually revoked that piece of their constitution, their article that they had in their Indian constitution, and kind of annexed it into Indian dominion. Um, that was also an illegal step that they took without considering or without taking into account the stakeholders, which is, of course, first the Kashmiri people, and then it is also the Pakistan. Pakistan also is a stakeholder to this. So what they did unilaterally was something, and they put the whole area under a strict curfew for almost a year and a half, and then immediately afterwards, COVID hit. So people were like literally bound to their houses
Mhm.
for almost 2 3 years. There was no way of communicating with them also, and that's when I actually had moved to America also, which was in 2019, and
Yeah.
I landed in Atlanta. So that's what I mean. There's like around 100,000 people who have died. But if you go back into the conflict in 1947, when the bifurcation happened, this Hindu king also committed a genocide because he wanted to make sure that there are more Hindus in the region so that they vote for him. So he committed a genocide, which is also documented by many historians, that around 200,000 to 500,000 people were killed, and about a million moved to mainland India or into Pakistan, fleeing persecution. But now, what happened since 90s is a different story, because in 90s there was an armed struggle that happened in Kashmir. Around 100,000 people have died. There's like around 10,000 people who have disappeared, and it's called enforced disappearances, wherein the Indian army comes to your doorstep, they take your men, but they never return, and they never tell you, like, there's no accountability. Also, they have some draconian laws, such as Armed Force Special Powers Act or Public Safety Act, wherein you're not accountable at all. You can actually take somebody. They have laws such as the laws that British had for British India when it was a colony, such as Armed Force Special Powers Act, and they have Public Safety Act. So what those acts are actually is, like, even if they come to my doorstep and pick me up and take me to their what do you call I mean, they take me wherever they want to take me, or they can kill me, but there's no accountability. They won't be tested in the court, because they have those powers. They can do whatever they want to do within Kashmir, and there are few regions also in northeast India where these laws apply. So in a way, it's like police has a free hand, army has a free hand, so they can do whatever they want to do without even being held accountable.
Yeah, kind of jumping off that a little bit, at least in sort of the control that India has kind of had over Kashmir. you've talked about sort of the portrayals of Kashmiri people in Bollywood films and how inaccurate they are. And I wondered if for, American listeners who are unfamiliar with what those stereotypes are, if you could talk about them and how you kind of work to combat them within your own film.
See, initially, like in the 70s, when they made movies, Kashmir was shown as this a touristy place. It was just at the backdrop. So you had this beautiful place, which was like kind of, they called it the Switzerland of Asia.
Hmm.
So because Kashmir is picturesque, it's so beautiful. It has so much that it offers in terms of its beauty. So these films, especially these big filmmakers such as Yash Chopra and all of these guys who made like these amazing romantic films, dramas, they would go to Kashmir, and Kashmir would always be the backdrop where you see the beauty. But as Kashmiri people, you didn't have the agency, so there was a lot of appropriation of our culture also happening in 70s and 80s when these movies would they would go to Kashmir. You would see a household that isn't a Kashmiri household, but its a location is Kashmir. But then, of course, you'll have these films made in Kashmir without any Kashmiri characters in it. But when you move to then fast forward to 90s, when the armed struggle happened, and which was a legitimate struggle that happened in 90s because people wanted to, there's this promise of right to self determination that never happened. The vote that I was speaking about, when the armed struggle happened, immediately it moved from us being nobody in the films in the 70s and 90s to us being the antagonists in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are the terrorists. We are a threat to the national security. So it kind of like really moved the public opinion also within the within India as like, okay, why these people should not be respected? Why these people? I mean, they made us the other. There was the otherification of us, even though India has always claimed Kashmir as the integral part of India. But as people, we were never integrated. It was always like, okay, these are the troublemakers. So that's what happened with the films that you see in 90s with these amazing big filmmakers. I mean, I had a huge respect for some of them. But when they started making films such as Roja, when you see like, it's literally trying to vilify a society, a community, and they're just struggle for self determination, right to self determination. So then you had like even today, if you see like the biggest releases that they just had last year called Jawan, it's all about them fighting, combating, these terrorists in Kashmir. And who are those terrorists in Kashmir? These are Kashmiri people. So it's kind of like, mobilizing that movement against us. Or recently they released a film called Kashmir Files, which was again a convoluted, story wherein they show us as menacing people who have, who just are troublemakers, in short. So I think that kind of like representation in Bollywood has really done a great injustice to our struggle also. And it has, what I am trying to do is want to humanize our struggle. We do not have a film industry.
Mm-hmm.
We've never had a film industry. I mean, there are film industries that they had regionally in other parts of India, but Kashmir did not have. I mean, there are only I can literally on my fingertips tell you like how many films have been produced since 1947 to now. It hardly is less than 10 films that have been made. So we didn't have that representation. One is that because I mean every story that you would make in Kashmir would of course reveal these wounds of conflict, but we've never given that opportunity. We don't even have cinemas. The cinema had, I mean, they opened just a cinema recently because a lot of these Indian movies were coming to Kashmir, which which did not have any outlet. And then the first cinema after the conflict, I mean, of course, there were cinemas in the 70s and 80s. Kashmir was really a place where people would go and watch the films. But after what they did with the Kashmir slowly, there was, of course, from the other side also, there were a lot of people who moved from Pakistan to fight our fight, quote unquote. A lot of these cinema halls were burned, but in terms of the industry, we never had any industry. We were never given an agency, and within Bollywood realm, also, if you even see the films that are made today, unless and until you don't have Kashmir mentioned in the films and it's not part of a plot or the subplot, the film wouldn't really do well either, because Kashmir is what draws their audience also with a lot of their movies. Okay, this is, Kashmir. There are these famous even dialogues how they repeat it. Even I get them sent on my message. दूध मांगोगे तो खीर देंगे, Kashmir मांगोगे तो चीर देंगे, which essentially is a Bollywood dialogue, meaning if you ask me for milk, I'm gonna give you a pudding. I mean, I'm just gonna give you a loose translation to it.
Mm.
But if you want Kashmir, we're literally gonna desecrate you. So like stuff like that Bollywood has put into the minds of the people, that's made our struggle seem as okay, we are the antagonists, we are the terrorists, and not humanizing, not even giving us the opportunity to tell our stories. So I think, yeah, that's some of the stuff. That's why I thought this film was important. And like I said, since 2019, when the Modi government came into power again, they
Mhm.
started erasing a lot of our history from history books, and even like these events that have happened in 90s from the internet. So I thought it was important to actually weave a story around one of the major events, because I took an event which is a massacre that happened in the 90s. Why that is symbolic is because that happened in the heart of the city, but that initiated a series of massacres in the 90s. So I thought it was important to bring that back into public memory. And it's a Kashmiri telling a Kashmiri story. Of course, I had challenges. I didn't have any Kashmiri actors.
Yeah.
I didn't have the location, so I had to kind of navigate through a lot of stuff, even to make the American artist understand the nuances of being a Kashmiri. So I think, I've had my challenges, but I think it also opened my doors to a lot of opportunities where, gave me an opportunity to explain it to people. And that's exactly what this film wants to do, to tell people like, okay, we also do exist, and please humanize us as people.
So, in facing some of those challenges, which I know you mentioned, the lack of Kashmiri actors here I don't know if it was just specifically within the local region of Georgia or just the United States in general, and then also with that you couldn't get filming or you couldn't get footage within Kashmir. It was very hard to get footage within Kashmir. How did you overcome some of these challenges? Were these challenges that you anticipated when you began making the film? And how did you overcome them throughout the course of production?
See, we initially started like we thought, okay, we will go to anywhere which is in close proximity to Kashmir, because Kashmir is divided into three parts. One of the parts is controlled by Pakistan, one with India, and the inhabitable part with China, because all three nuclear powers are literally, they want the land. So then we thought, okay, maybe we might want to go to Pakistan to shoot. But when I sent a couple of people there to do the recce, I didn't find it similar to Srinagar city. That's where the film is,
Mm.
based, where you go back. So we thought, like, initially we will just probably do it in Pakistan, and it's not going to cost us the same amount of money that's going to cost us here. But then I thought of it like, okay, if I do it in Pakistan, then people are going to say like, oh, it's a Pakistani narrative, because that literally happens a lot with us. If we
Mm.
say anything, they're like, okay, go back to Pakistan. Even like a normal Indian would tell us like, go back to Pakistan. As if they own Kashmir. So then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like get Pakistan involved in it, even though like my intentions are right. But let me just do something. Then we had to move the story. We had to make the story as a diasporic angle, because I already had come to Atlanta. I was little exposed to the diasporic experiences, especially when 2019 happened. The abrogation of articles happened. A lot of these families couldn't get in touch with their families back home for almost a year.
Mm.
So, but I was part of that experience too, because I had just moved to America, and everybody was worried. So I was like, okay, that's an interesting story too. So why don't I move my characters from being in Kashmir to being to have them be here in America. But in terms of like wanting to get Kashmiri actors, one, like I said, there aren't many, and there is a very small community of actors in Kashmir. But even if I would have asked them to be part of this film, that would have meant that they would have never gone back to Kashmir. because there are people who actually even write articles. I have a lot of journalist friends who have written pieces in 2010. They have been persecuted and they're languishing in jails. So that was an issue. And then we are a very small community here in America also. So a lot of these guys, I reached out to the diaspora also, wanted to see like if there's like second generation Americans who want to like explore this path. But it was again like there were a couple who were interested, but ultimately it was like, oh, okay, India won't allow us, go back to Kashmir, because they have this card that you get as an American or as somebody who's a citizen of another country but has roots in India or in Kashmir. They get this card called OIC card. A lot of Kashmiris have had their cards revoked because they were part of the advocacy here in the US or in the UK. So that also was another threat. And a lot of these people, like, a lot of these people who are doing advocacy here in the US, their relatives back home get harassed a lot. So I didn't have no means of getting anybody. Like I said, one, we do not have an industry. Two, we don't have many actors. Even if there were some that I wanted to come from Kashmir, they wouldn't have been able to go back. And three, people who were here, they had the threat of persecution also, or their relatives back home getting harassed. So that's when I opened it up to other communities also. I was like, okay, I'm not going to get, I mean, I tried a little bit, but then I was like, okay, let me open it up to other communities. When I opened it up, I remember I had, it's an Atlanta based casting director, Brian Beagle. So I had a conversation with him. I said like, hey, okay, can you just open it up to South Americans also, to Middle Eastern people also, and let's see what happens. And that's when, I went through the process of auditioning people, and then I knew that, okay, I have to go back into time in Kashmir, wherein I had to have the Kashmiri language. I know they were not going to perfect it in like just a couple of weeks time, but I think they did an amazing job. I'm not unhappy with what they did, but I'm happy with the kind of effort that they put into the job and did what they did. So yeah, I mean, I had to navigate through that, but it wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard when I started getting into it. But now the location was another issue, because of course around 16, 17 minutes of the movie goes back into Kashmir. That's when I had to actually, which is very ironic, get a Bollywood media company in Bombay, got in touch with them, and I had to write, because now if you have to like shoot in Kashmir, what they do is like with the Bollywood films, they have a free hand. They can actually go to Kashmir, and there's also like, of course, like I said, right now, um, any major production that actually goes to Kashmir to portray that, okay, there is a sense of normalcy there. Everything is okay. You can go, and it has been integrated fully into the dominion of India now. All of the stuff is happening. It's all great, and Bollywood is that tool through which it is happening. So for Bollywood films to go there and get permission to shoot is very easy. Like I said, they have a free hand. But somebody who's a Kashmiri and wanting to do a film there, they have to go through a lot of red tape, and there's like so many protocols that they have to follow. Ultimately, they will be discouraged to even make any content, make any films. For me, I had to get in touch with a media company in Bombay and ask them like, hey, I need a certain camera to be sent to Kashmir. I need a 5 day shoot. I only need exterior. So I gave them a shot list. And I knew that, okay, now then I can literally do like some stuff I could do with, green screen, and I can do some plates because there's a huge bridge scene in the film. So I did, and that I did before I even started the pre-production here in America. And I remember a lot of my American crew here, they kept saying like, Arfat, how could you even do that? You haven't really shot anything here, but you want to do that. But I needed a specific time, like around December to January, to shoot those exteriors, but my shoot here was going to start in February. So I made sure that I had that 5 6 days of shoot when I got the exteriors, but I had to fake it. I had to chat GPT my documentary script to get the permission. Like, oh, okay, there's this American production company that's actually wanting to do a documentary in Kashmir, and you had to submit a script also. So I quickly just chat GPT a script for a documentary on Kashmir on the bridges,
Mhm.
on the bridges of Kashmir, and then they submitted it, and it did get the permission. And yeah, that's how I got the exterior shots. I mean, I wouldn't have even gotten those, but yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so fascinating. ChatGPT used for good, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
AI
like, I mean,
today.
because it was a last minute thing. They're like, okay, in the
Yeah.
permission, they need you to like send us a submit a script for the documentary that you're making. I'm like, okay, wow, okay, what am I gonna
Yeah.
think? And I'm like, ChatGPT, come to my rescue and tell me like, I
Yeah.
mean, I want to do like a story on the bridges of Kashmir, and then it just gave me like I think a couple of pages, and I was like, okay, just submit it,
Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah, and then we got the permission. Yeah.
My God, that's amazing. Usually AI, I feel like, is in service of the authoritarian state. So
Yeah.
to see it subverting the authoritarian state is a
Yeah, that's
welcome
amazing. That's
change.
Yeah. Kind of, it's interesting, and I would love to sort of hear your thoughts on this, but, speaking to the sort of international quality of the cast as far as like, different ethnicities, different nationalities, obviously, you lose some of the authentic Kashmiri, like with the language and the culture and stuff. But for me, it kind of also opens up a really interesting international aspect. Obviously, there are atrocities kind of all over the world. And I wonder, what are your sort of thoughts on that? Like, what do you think that kind of brings to the movie thematically?
Well, I agree with you. Like that was one of the things. Like I even today when I have to like screen this movie in front of a Kashmiri, I'm always hesitant. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is like me. Like although I'm so proud of everybody's performance, and I would not change a single thing about the film, but I thought it opened up like this is exactly what I want in terms of like a solidarity movement wherein people actually do understand and know what the conflict is and try and understand it. And this film is to make them aware of what's happening in Kashmir, and it's to instill a sense of inquiry in them, like, oh, okay, Kashmir, what is happening? Maybe after this film is, of course, this film's not going to tell them the whole story, but they might want to go and Google it up a little bit and then try and find out, do their own due diligence. But I think this kind of really helped in a way. If I would have gotten a Kashmiri, I think it wouldn't have had a broader reach that it has now, because there is a downside, but there's something that I think I appreciate is like all these people who came from different communities, they had their shared struggle also. Like it's not that I have a lot of immigrant Americans in the movie, those who are second generation, third generation, and they have also moved because of some sort of trauma. So there was this sense of belongingness also, you know what I mean? And then I think that shared experience made it even more powerful of an expression than it probably I meant to do it with them also becoming part of telling our story. So in itself, it became an even more powerful tool of us telling our story with other communities coming together, wherein if I would have only had Kashmiris, I don't think I would have had this much of a reach. Because I remember when I did a screening in Wake Forest in North Carolina, I had so many Latino Americans come to watch this film, and it is because I had Latinos involved in it. I had a lot of Arab Americans come to watch this film and travel all the way from LA, New York, just to watch this film. And this wouldn't have been possible if I wouldn't have involved and opened it up to other communities. So in a way, I think it worked in my favor. And like I said, I always say that, I think it's the most powerful thing. It created a solidarity movement while making the movie, while people, were getting, becoming part of this movie making, trying to understand. Their families now know about Kashmir. Their friends now know about Kashmir. I think, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that if I only would have had the Kashmiris to be part of it. So I think it has really helped me in that sense, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. You talk about the reach of the film. I know that the trailer just in and of itself has garnered over 1 million views, 1.5 million views across social media platforms. What has been the response that you fielded, both in terms of this positive response and then also some of the pushback that you mentioned earlier in the conversation? What have you received? And I'm always so fascinated by an artist's ability to sort of weather some of the negative criticism that inevitably comes through social media. So, what has that journey been like for you?
I'll be very honest to you, it has been predominantly a lot of positive stuff because, at the end of the day, I know that, a lot of
Good.
my people never had a voice, for them to see a cinematic representation of Kashmiris, it's so overwhelming. And I've had so much positive feedback, people, so happy that ultimately there is a film which is not driven by the Bollywood's agenda of, vilifying us, but it is us telling our story. So I've had a lot of good feedback, but of course, like I'll be very honest to you, the negative feedback, I don't even look at it.
Yeah.
I really do not. Initially, I did. I just wanted to see, like, how people would react to it. But it's so negative at times that it kind of affects you for a couple of days. And I
Yeah.
don't want that to happen to me. I'll be very honest to you. Like now, I don't even read anything. I'm like, okay. When I initially remember, like, when this, especially on Instagram, it really went viral. The first trailer when we released, and I saw like every minute there were like 20, 30, 40 comments coming in, and then I started reading some, and then when I saw like there's a little bit of hate also coming, I was like, okay, let me just ignore that. With now, I have, I think, a little bit of expertise. I can tell with just the name, that okay, is it in favor or against the motion. So I'm like, okay. So yeah, I mean, it did affect you for a couple of days, but then I think, I knew, like I said, from the very beginning, that when I even set off to make this film, I knew what I was signing up for. So it wasn't that I was only going to get, like, laurels on it, but I knew that there's going to be a lot of backlash, and people are not going to like it. People are going to even, like, start threatening me, which really did happen. I mean, people start threatening you also. They send you these inbox messages. They not just, they write bad stuff about your family. They tell you, like, okay, if we see you on whatever, we will get you killed. All of that stuff. But this is not new to me as somebody who grew up in conflict. I grew up in 90s, when curfews were a thing, night raids were a thing. There were bombing happening everywhere. So for me to just read a comment, I'll be very honest to you, I think I'm very thick-skinned when it comes to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm interested, what are sort of your plans, kind of future plans for distribution? Is there any kind of news on that front?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of distributors interested because distribution also is another it's another ball game altogether. It's like when
Yeah.
you've done the film with distribution. See, I mean, there's like a lot of these people who like the production value of the film. They're like, okay, I mean, I am speaking to at least 5 or 6 distributors right now, but we haven't signed anything as yet.
Hmm.
Because I know, one, it's very niche. This film, it's not your out and out American, flick, or it's and the genre is also not like, something that, I mean, I have to get somebody who actually, who thinks that, okay, this film is just made, it's not made to just entertain, but it's made to, it's a call for action.
Hmm.
So I think that's what we are navigating through, like our my I mean, we have a very small team. Some of them are Atlanta based, so this is what we're like thinking right now. Okay, who should we go with? Who is going to give us the most visibility? So it's about that. But to be honest, like for a film like this to have distributors interested, I'm amazed. I think the journey's not been so hard. Like when I speak to other filmmakers, and they tell me, like, how they have not been able to get a distributor or get deals and everything. But I think we have been lucky in that, in that sense. Although, like, right now films are really not doing well. There's There's not much happening. People are scared of making films, but with us getting good response from the distributors also is great. But like I said, it's again like, who do I go with? Who understands it better? Because sometimes it's just like they want to keep the movie in their catalog, and nothing happens, nothing moves.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so it's like from there also, you got to see there's like this. And right now, I think you gotta test new models of distributing the film, and that's what we're trying to see. I mean, we also want to do these screenings, so that gives us an opportunity also to talk about Kashmir, because that's very important for me, and also for my EP, my executive producer, because he's the reason that he invested $1 million in this project was he wanted people to know about Kashmir. So that gives us an opportunity. We are self-distributing it for now in terms of trying to do these theatrical releases. We want to do like multi-city before we sign something with a distributor to put it on a streaming service, which of course is going to happen. And like I said, there is interest. We're already speaking to 6 of them, but we don't know which one we're going to sign and why. But yeah, but we do want to take time and do these multi-city screenings, and sit down and talk about Kashmir, because ultimately this film is bigger than me or bigger than anybody who was involved in it. It is about Kashmir, and I hope that I've done the justice and I'm telling the story in the most authentic and truthful way. I do understand that I do not have Kashmiris in it, which again, like I said, some may think that it is, um, it's a drawback, but the way it has been received kind of overshadows that drawback, and I think it's really doing what I didn't even expect that my trailer was going to get so viral. This is going to happen because it's a small indie film, and that too I'm doing this in America. You know what I mean? Where I would have thought like nobody would be interested in even knowing what Kashmir is. Like I said, when I even started, for me to tell people, I don't know. I mean, because I sent you the screener, you must have seen when it goes back into Kashmir. There are scenes of the wedding scenes when they're eating. And I remember, like, I had my DP, and they were all waiting, and they were like, where is this scene happening when they're reading?" And I'm like, "Okay, it's happening here." They're like, "But where is the dining table?" I'm like, "There's no dining table." You know what I mean? So there are so many cultural, specificity that I had to kind of like explain. Had I made this film in Kashmir, a lot of this stuff would have been covered.
Yeah.
But I think I had to really do a lot of other stuff in terms of making sure that they also understand that there are certain nuances that they might not be used to. But hey, that's how it is. Like sometimes you might think like there are things that might seem cheesy, but hey, they're not. That's how people from different cultures react.
Yeah.
It may feel different here, but yeah.
That was honestly one of my favorite scenes. I thought it felt very specific, and I loved the song that was playing over it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Arfat, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the film. What an incredible accomplishment. Are you working on anything next? Do you have anything, a next film that you're developing?
Yeah, I mean, I have a short documentary which is almost done. We're just doing the.
About the bridges of Kashmir?
No, no, no. I wish it was like my. It's again. It's called Whispers of the Valley. It again is a Kashmiri documentary. It's about women. The whole village, all their men had disappeared. I mean, during 90s, there were multiple raids, and these women are called half widows. And the reason they're called half widows because their men never return and they don't know if they're dead or not. So the first time they spoke in the camera, like into the camera telling their story, and I thought it was a very powerful stuff after 32 years of what had happened in that village. Now they want to speak and tell how they've been navigating through this. So that's the documentary. That's again like going to go into festival circuit first before it kind of like before I have a wide release. But then, yeah, I do want to make another feature film. So we're thinking of what next. But yeah, that's what is in
Wow.
pipeline right now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Where can people follow you to keep track of your work?
I have an Instagram. That's all I have. Arfat_A_Sheikh. ARFAT, then _A, then _SHEIKH. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have. Until I have a website, I'll put it out there. But I don't have anything else but Instagram right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have that linked down in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and review. Hit us with the 5 stars. Leave a few kind words. It would really, really go a long way to helping us out. This has been wonderful. Arfat, thank you. Sammie, thank you. And until next time, that's a wrap.
See ya, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.